Hello, everyone, and welcome to SCORE Fairfield County's webinar on getting federal contracts. I'm Peter Talion, the workshop coordinator and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County, and I'll be your host. Our speaker today is Tanisha Baptiste. More on our speaker in just a moment. First, I will ask Diana Washington from the Black Chamber of Commerce to do a welcome as one of our webinar partners. Please go ahead, Diana.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank everybody for joining us this morning for, I'm sure, which is going to be a wonderful webinar. A little bit about the Chamber and OIC. The Chamber is a membership business network organization serving small businesses in Fairfield County and beyond. We provide advocacy, networking opportunities, educational and informational workshops, free access to contract bids, along with MBE certification, membership and business-to-business perks, newsletters providing information about grants, loans, events, and much more. Our goal is to make sure that our businesses are aware of the resources and services that are available to help you either to start your business or to move your business to the next level. Now, OIC has been unlocking the doors of opportunity in Greater Bridgeport and the surrounding towns for over 20 years. They play a vital role in the struggle for economic justice and provide free job placement, skills development services, along with ServSafe certification, small business development, and urban farming training. Led by Deborah Cavanis, President and CEO, OIC prepares and empowers adults for today's workforce, the changing economy, and environmental challenges. And if you would like to know a little bit more about either one of the organizations, I have put our contact information in the chat, along with our upcoming Business to Business Expo that we're going to be hosting, SCORE, OIC, and the Chamber on May 15th at Housatonic Community College, located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much, Diana. We appreciate your sponsorship and the resources that your organization provides. Let me give you a little bit of background on SCORE. We're a nationwide organization of over 10,000 volunteers across 230 offices. We are a resource partner of the Small Business Administration. In Fairfield County, we have approximately 100 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. We offer three primary value-added services to small business owners. We provide free one-on-one counseling, and you can request a mentor using the link at the bottom of our website or on this screen. We provide in-person educational workshops and live webinars, about 100 per year. And we have extensive resources on our website, including a network of subject matter experts at your disposal. About today's event, if you have a question, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. We will take questions throughout the webinar, but we would ask that you put them into the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen. Our workshop will end at 1 o'clock to respect your time. The session is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be available at fairfieldcounty.score.org within the next couple of days. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce our speaker, Tanisha Baptiste. She is the Business Opportunity Specialist for the Connecticut District Office of the Small Business Administration. In this role, Tanisha performs all duties related to federal government contracting, including the SBA's Set-Aside program. Now it's my great pleasure to turn it over to Tanisha. Tanisha, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Peter, for the warm introduction. Thank you and welcome, everyone. So today we are going to be doing a very high-level overview of federal government contracting. We're going to talk about why you would want to get into government contracting, how you would get into it, and some of the avenues that federal government purchasers go about procuring services and goods from small businesses. So the first things we're going to talk about is why government contracting. Why is that an area that you as a small business owner would want to get into? So the federal government is the world's largest customer. So government buys everything, all kinds of products and services. A lot of times there's a bit of a misconception about what the government buys and if your industry is suitable for government contracting. And I tell people that the government buys everything from graphic design. The most recent instance that we can personally discuss at the SBA is our logo. Under our former administrator, Linda McMahon, she came on board and she rebranded the SBA. So if you've been following SBA for a while, you'll notice that our logo has evolved. So that was actually a government contract. So that was with a graphic design artist. Services are provided. We have caterers that get government contract work, consultants, HR consultants, different things like that. So it's not just the usual, what people will think like hammer and nails types of services that the government procures. Again, they buy just about everything. And we'll talk about how I would recommend that you go about seeing if the government actually buys what you provide. The government is required by law to provide contract opportunities to small businesses. And we'll go into this a little bit more in detail as we progress through the presentation. But the SBA does work with federal agencies to award at least 23% of all federal government contract dollars each year to small businesses. Okay. So before you get started, what you want to do is you want to assess your business. So is your business actually ready for government contracting? So again, the first thing that you want to check and see is, does the government buy what you sell? So there is a website. It's called SAM, the System for Award Management. All kinds of things can be done there. First thing that you need to do is you need to be registered in SAM to do business with the government, but all government contracts are also housed in SAM. So if you wanted to do a little bit of market research to see if the government is actually buying what you sell, you can actually do a search for your NAICS code. That's the North American Industry Classification Systems code, or you can use keywords and type in there, say you sell bells. You can type in bells to see if anything pops up under that keyword to see if there's any contract opportunities, current or past, that are out there. Do you have federal contracting experience, cash, inventory, and working capital? So the first one, federal contracting experience, it is preferred but not required. So I tell people, as long as you have some kind of experience in your field, prefer that it be with the federal government, just because understanding the way that the government operates, some of the rules outlined for federal purchasing. But if you've done any work at the state level, local levels, that applies as well as commercial. Every time I do one of these workshops, someone asks, well, I have lots of experience in the industry, but I haven't yet gotten a contract. You're going to want to go ahead and put that experience in there as well. It's just like when you're looking for a job. They just want to make sure that you have the experience and they're going to get a quality product or service out of you. So if you haven't yet worked with the government at a contracting capacity, showing that you do have expertise and experience in the field will also help as well. You want to make sure that you have certain systems in place. We talk about cash, inventory, working capital. You need to have that at the time that you are trying to get the contract. So I always tell people, understand the way that contracting works. You don't get paid upfront. Sometimes you'll have progress payments where you'll get paid throughout the life of the contract, depending on the size of the contract and duration of the contract. And sometimes you don't get paid until the back end, after the work is performed or after the products have been delivered. And all of those details will be outlined in the contract, but you need to make sure that you have the upfront capabilities to work on the contract before you actually start bidding on it. And do you know where to find contracting opportunities? I just told you, you go to sam.gov. We'll talk a little bit more about SAM again as we progress throughout the presentation. So how do you get started? First thing that you want to do is identify what your NAICS code is. So NAICS, it's the North American Industry Classification System, and those define the establishment based on activities that you're primarily engaged. You'll also find these codes on your tax forms. So whether it's on a Schedule C or if you have a corporation, you have corporate docs in your tax returns, you're going to see a 6-digit code in there. You want to make sure that that is the correct code and it describes the actual industry that you are working in. The SBA size standards determines whether or not you're small based on that NAICS code. So the website that I want you all to use when trying to find your NAICS code is Census. So it's going to be census.gov/NAICS. Okay, that's where you're going to go. You can type in keywords to find your NAICS code, or if you know the first couple of digits, like if you're in construction, the first 2 digits are going to be 23. If you're in professional services, first 2 digits will be 54. If you know that information up front, you could type that in. Otherwise, you can use keywords. Now, when we get into your SAM registration, it will ask you for your NAICS code. You can have more than one. So what you want to do is you want to identify what your primary NAICS code is. And that's going to be the code that's actually on your tax return. That is your revenue driver. So let's say you are in construction. So general commercial construction is your primary NAICS code as an example. Can you have supplemental NAICS codes underneath there? Absolutely. Let's say you do a little bit of residential remodeling. You do a little bit of paint. You have a crew that does some landscaping. Maybe you have some janitorial staffs that goes in and does some of that work as well. You can use all of those additional NAICS codes as what we call supplementals. You can have as many of those as you want, as long as you can perform under those NAICS codes, but you can only have one primary. That's your revenue driver. Okay, so we're going to go back to SAM. I know that there was a question in the chat about sam.gov and the SAM registration. Before we got started, that's more of a specialized question. So we'll address that at the end. But in order to do business with the federal government, you have to be registered in SAM. As a matter of fact, if you're applying for any of the state of Connecticut's socioeconomic certifications, and I know as a part of this series, the Department of Administrative Services will come in and speak about some of theirs, but as a little spoiler, you also need to be registered in SAM for that as well. Your SAM registration will always be free. If you are ever presented with a paywall while you're trying to do your registration, unfortunately, you are at the wrong site. Once you are registered in SAM, it has to be renewed at least every year. What ends up happening is you may get some solicitation emails that say your SAM registration is expiring in 90 days. You need to remit a payment of say $1,000, $500. SAM registration, SAM renewals, all of that are always going to be free. If you are ever asked to make a payment for any of these websites, anything with a .gov, you are in the wrong place. Do not ever remit payment. So the SAM website, it's not new, but it's newer. It used to be 10 separate websites that now have been consolidated into a single one. There used to be, some of you may be familiar with the DUNS number and different things like that. That's no longer used. Now you get what's called a unique entity identifier, or UEI. So you have to be you have to make sure that you're also doing a full SAM registration. If you go in there and you put in a couple of details and it pops back a unique entity identifier, you have not completed a full SAM registration. You simply registered for a UEI. It will take the average person who is sitting down in one setting and is super computer savvy and has all of their documents ready to go, minimum 45 minutes to get through a full SAM registration. So if you complete it sooner than that, you want to double check to make sure that you did the full SAM registration. So we talked a little bit about market research. You want to know what agencies buy your products and services. You want to find your niche. You want to understand the areas of government spending. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go. And know your competition and their contracts. So knowing what agencies buy your products and services is going to take a little bit of work on your end. So every federal agency has a website, and many of them post their forecast. So they'll have a little link on their website that says, work with us, do business with us, contractors, something there. They'll have a little tab there. If you click in there, many of them will have forecasts at the beginning of the fiscal year. The federal government's fiscal year runs October 1st through September 30th. That's different than the way the state of Connecticut's fiscal year runs. So you have to pay attention to that as well. Many times they will post their forecast at the beginning of the fiscal year. Sometimes they will do two. They'll do one at the beginning. They'll do another midway through. So just go to some of the agencies that you're interested in and look to see if they are posting their forecasts. If you are on social media, I've noticed that many agencies also post forecasts on their LinkedIn sites. So follow agencies on LinkedIn and see if they are posting any updates to their forecasts there as well. I love certain agencies. They do a whole Excel document that you can sort and search by NAICS code, by date, by award amounts, by state. It makes it really, really easy for you all to go in there and sift through that data. You want to also make sure that you have a capability statement. So your capability statement is a single page. It is what often we'll call it your business resume. So this is not your personal resume. This is you talking all about your business. So the purpose, it's proof of qualification. It's an introduction to your business itself. You have proof of past performance. It shows that you are qualified and that you've got experience in your field. It's a marketing tool, so it's a door opener. You're going to use it to start building relationships. You want to make sure that it's meaty and it gets right to the point where it can captivate your customers. You want to make sure it's setting you apart from your competitors. It will also represent you in your absence. So let's say if a contracting officer can't meet with you directly, but you can send them over a copy of your capability statement for them to read over. And it helps you to also obtain meetings with decision makers. So if they have something coming up and they're just asking for a bunch of capability statements, they're going to look to see what looks like a best fit for them, and they'll reach out to schedule meetings with you as well. You're going to use it for prime or teaming opportunities. So if you're looking to work with another business in your industry, and once you start getting into SAM and you're looking for solicitations, if you're looking for sources sought, which you absolutely should be doing, what that means is that an agency is thinking about posting a contract, but they want to see how many sources of the service or product are available out there. Is there enough competition? Let's say if they want to open it to Connecticut. So they're going to put out a sources sought to see how many businesses in Connecticut can actually provide these services or products. If they cannot find enough to provide competition, then they're going to have to widen their net. So then they may open it up to Connecticut businesses, Massachusetts businesses. Maybe they want to set it aside for a small business. They're going to post a sources sought. Do we have enough small businesses in the area who can perform on this contract? If they're finding that they don't have enough small businesses, then they're going to post it as full and open. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means. So just kind of put a pin in that and keep that in the back of your mind as we move through the presentation. So you have your contracting vehicles. We talked about why do you want to get into government contracting, and we talked about the government being the world's largest buyer. So what that means in dollars and cents is on average, the government is spending $600 billion a year in procurement. So when we say that 23% of prime contracting dollars are intended for small businesses or set aside for small businesses. That's about $138 billion that's being set aside for small businesses. Okay. So how are contracts posted? So I just talked a little bit about when they do their sources sought, they have to do their market research as well. So there's three ways that three types of competition when it comes to contracting officers posting solicitations. So you have your full and open competition. That means anybody can bid on this contract. Big business, small business, a business that has a certain socioeconomic status, such as woman-owned, veteran-owned, disadvantaged businesses. Then you have your small business set-asides. That means only small businesses can bid on this contract. Or it may be one of the socioeconomic statuses. So it could be set aside as a small business set aside for woman-owned, small business set aside as service disabled veteran-owned, hub zone, 8A, or socially disadvantaged businesses. And we'll talk a little bit more about those as well as we progress. Then you have sole source. So under certain circumstances, a sole source can be awarded. So 8A is a very special program where they can just award a sole source to an 8A company. Another way is if you have another socioeconomic certification and they've determined that you are the only business in the area who can perform on the contract. So they're going to go ahead and award it as a sole source because they were not able to make a determination of competition. But you have to have one of the socioeconomic category certifications. Peter, do we have any questions out there about anything so far?
We do have a couple of questions if you want to take some questions.
Okay.
Okay, the first question is, how are we able to view contracts from competitors that have non-disclosure agreements at the state level, yet have federal contracts that have different transparency requirements?
So the state level, we're going to hold off on that one until you all have your webinar with the Department of Administrative Services. They are better qualified to answer questions on the state level. On the federal level, if everything on a federal level should be public unless it's classified. So if it's classified, you're not going to be able to view those unless you have a special security clearance. And those are usually contracts that are awarded by the Department of Defense. So if you can put in a FOIA request, but if it's classified and you have to have a security clearance in order to view that information, you're not going to be able to have access to that. Anything outside of that, if it's not, it should be posted on SAM or on usaspending.gov. If the contract is not posted there, but you know that there's been an award, you can submit a FOIA request to the agency. And FOIA is Freedom of Information Act.
Okay, the next question came in through the chat. Does my business need to register in Connecticut to apply for Connecticut government contracts?
So again, for the state of Connecticut, I can answer that, but anything that's specific to you want to do business with a certain state level agency like the school systems or anything like that, we're going to let the Department of Administrative Services answer that. But you do have to be registered with the Secretary of State in order to do business with the state of Connecticut. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have an LLC, because that sometimes people confuse that. I'm not an attorney, but I'm going to tell you, if I was an attorney, if there was an attorney on the call, they would more than likely tell you to go ahead and take the extra step to get the LLC as well. But you do have to be registered with the state that your business is headquartered in. To do business with the state, to do business with the federal government as well, they are going to ask for your articles of organization. And the only way that you're going to get your articles of organization is by registering with the Secretary of State.
Okay, you had earlier talked about the capability statement as one of the requirements for coming onto SAM. The question relates to, since the capability statement is based on known work history, is it correct that small businesses just being launched are not able to register on SAM?
the small business can still register in SAM. So your capability statement is separate from SAM. You register in SAM and then that's your SAM registration. Your capability statement is like your resume, right? So let's say Indeed.com. You can register in Indeed.com and you can have your resume separate. If you don't put your resume into Indeed.com, you don't have to. With SAM, they don't even have the capabilities to allow you to upload a capability statement in there. So as a new business just starting, you can still register in SAM.
Okay. And then there's a question I think we'll hold to till the end in terms of a problem that somebody had getting set up on SAM. If we have
Yes.
time available, we'll come back to that one.
Yes, and that person will also have, I think it was Johnny Appleseed.
Yep.
At the end of the presentation, you'll see my email address as well. So more than likely, I'm probably going to tell you to email me because that's a very unique and personal situation.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Tanisha. Let's go on.
Okay. Okay, so then we also have something called agreements. Agreements are not contracts. So the government does not always have to have a formal contract posted in SAM in order to do business with your government, with your business. So you have two things. You have a basic order agreement and you have a blanket purchase agreement. So your basic order agreement, it can be used to expedite contracting for certain uncertain requirements. So you may not know the specific details about pricing, issuing, or delivering just yet, but you want to kind of reserve it, right? So you're going to have the terms and clauses for applying future contracts. You'll have a description of supplies and services that will be provided, but then the nitty gritty of it will be provided at a later date. So that's again, pricing, issuing, delivering on future orders. Those are not very common. You don't see those often at all. Then you have your blanket purchase agreements. These are very common. So these are what we call a simplified method for filling anticipated repetitive needs for supplies and services. So an example that I use here in the Connecticut district office, we used to have a Xerox machine, and there was a maintenance contract that came along with it. Now, we have something called the purchase card, which is a credit card that the federal government can use, but we have limits on how much we can spend on the credit card itself. So if it exceeds those limits, you have to then put it on something called a blanket purchase agreement. So with the Xerox machine, it was a monthly payment that at the end of the full year, those monthly payments were going to exceed what we call the micro purchase threshold. And we'll talk a bit about that later on. So that had to be put on a blanket purchase agreement. So every month, the payments for that would come off of the blanket purchase agreement. So again, those are way more common than a blanket basic order agreement. You'll often hear people say, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and put it on a BPA. Some people get on the GSA schedule, and what's on the GSA schedule oftentimes are also BPAs or blanket purchase agreements because you have repetitive services that you may be providing to someone. So then subcontracting, a lot of what I've talked about right now really pertains to prime contracting. And to kind of piggyback on someone's question about being a brand new business, right? Sometimes you really want to go ahead and start with subcontracting. So it's a simpler, faster way for you to get into government contracting. It helps you to build the capacity if you don't already have it. It creates that past performance. It gives you access to the federal government indirectly because you're subcontracting underneath a prime contractor. And then it allows more opportunities for the small business. So basically what that means is you have your prime contractor. I'm going to use, I'm assuming most people on the call are from Connecticut. So I'm going to use Sikorsky as an example. Sikorsky gets lots of prime contracts from the federal government. They are the prime contractor, but because these contracts are so large, and remember that 23% goal, they have to submit to their contracting officer what's called a subcontracting plan. And in that subcontracting plan, they have to explain how they're going to subcontract out 23% of that contract to small businesses. So you, as a small business, can be a subcontractor under Sikorsky. Sikorsky got the contract. They're the prime contractor. But there's going to be certain parts, nuggets of that contract that they're going to go ahead and outsource to subcontractors. So let's say it's a big construction contract. They're doing the bulk of the work, the heavy lifting there, but they're going to subcontract plumbing. They're going to subcontract painting. They're going to subcontract the cleanup. They're going to subcontract out the landscaping, right? So that's what we mean by subcontracting. You're just getting little pieces of a larger puzzle. Okay. So now we're going to talk more about the socioeconomic certifications that I've been mentioning. So remember, we talked about 23% of all prime contracting dollars need to be set aside for small businesses. So there are some subsets to that. So women-owned small businesses, 5% should be set aside for that. So in fiscal year 23, just to know, like federal government wide, the goal was 5%. They were at 4.91% or $30.9 billion were awarded to women-owned small businesses. Small disadvantaged businesses, including 8A certified, that goal is at 5%. In fiscal year 23, actually 12.1% were awarded to small disadvantaged businesses, which amounted to $76.2 billion. Hub zone are historically underutilized business zones. 3% were set aside for hub zones. In fiscal year 23, they didn't quite meet the mark. They were at 2.78% or $17.5 billion were awarded to hub zones. And then we have our service disabled veteran-owned small businesses. That goal is at 5%. That was actually newly increased over the last fiscal year. So midway through 2024, I want to say it was in February or March, it was increased from 3% to 5%. But agencies had already been meeting that because in fiscal year 23, they were actually at 5.07% or $31.9 billion for service disabled veterans. So I mentioned briefly when we talked about the BPAs, I said the word micro purchase threshold. So what that means, set-asides are reserved for small businesses between the micro purchase threshold and what's called the simplified acquisition threshold. What those words mean in numbers is anything between $10,000 and $250,000 should be set aside for small businesses, whether it's all small or one of the socioeconomic categories, women-owned, small disadvantage, hub zone, or service disabled veteran-owned. They should be set aside for businesses that fall into those categories. Anything below $10,000 can be purchased without a contract. So the federal agency, they have a purchase card holder. The purchase card holder can make that purchase with their credit card. Anything over $10,000, it needs to be either put on a BPA, if it's for repetitive services, like I used with the Xerox example, or it has to actually be posted in sam.gov as a contract. So a little bit more about what the socioeconomic categories stand for. So the woman-owned small business programs, one thing about this is a little bit misleading. So a lot of times people say, well, I'm a woman and I have a business, so I should qualify for the woman-owned small business contracting program. This is actually for industries that are historically underrepresented by women. So you have to have one of the applicable NAICS codes in order to qualify for the Women-Owned Small Business Certification Program. All of those NAICS codes are on our website. There is, I believe, 738 NAICS codes. So it's not just a small number. It's a wide number of industries that actually fall under this category. And as you mentioned, that goal is at 5%. And the purpose of it is for you as a woman-owned small business to be able to take advantage of annual prime contracting goals. It does help you to build capacity and grow. And then you're also able to access set-asides for woman-owned small businesses as well as economically disadvantaged woman-owned small businesses. This is a formal certification. So in order to get the certification, you do have to apply for it at certifications.sba.gov. And that's going to be true of all of the programs that we're going to talk about. So just a little bit of a trend analysis for you all. So between 2019 and 2023, this has been the trend for women-owned small businesses. So you see in 2021, there was a bit of a dip there, but it has been steadily increasing. The goal has remained at 5%, but we were just below it in 2023. Then we have our 8A Business Development Program. This is a business development program. It is a 9-year, once-in-a-lifetime program. It was created to help socially and economically disadvantaged businesses compete. They develop an even playing field for our socially and economically disadvantaged business owners. This is a once-in-a-lifetime program that is both the lifetime of the business owner and the business itself. So if I, Tanisha Baptiste Bynum, participates in the 8A Business Development Program, I cannot then participate again, even if it's under a new business. So if I own ABC Construction and I decide to shut that down and open up DEF Consulting cannot participate in the 8A program. Now with the business itself, ABC Construction has participated in the 8A program. Even though I'm the owner now, if I decide to sell my business to Diana Washington cannot then take ABC Construction and participate in the 8A program with the same business because that business itself has already participated. Okay, so again, once in a lifetime program for both the life of the business itself as well as the business owner. It is a formal certification. There is a minimum time in business for it, and this is at the benefit for the business. 2 years in business, you have to have some type of past performance in order to participate in this program. We just want to make sure that your business is well situated to take full advantage of the 9 years in a program. We don't want you to enter the program and spend the first half of your time in it trying to get your business up and running. We want your business to already be established and ready to hit the ground running in the program. So this program, the data trend is going to look a little bit different just because it was at 5% all the way up until 2021. And then the goal was increased to 11%. And then 12%, and then in 2024, the goal was at 15%. So earlier this year, the goal was actually reset down to 5%. So, but agencies were not having any issues meeting the numbers. They were actually exceeding the goals every time. So I don't expect that we'll see anything different for when the data comes out for 2024. Then we have our hub zone certification or historically underutilized business zone. This one here is an economic development program. So this one isn't based on the identity of the owner itself. This is all about the business and where the business is located, as well as the employees in the business. So the purpose of this program is to stimulate capital investment, helping the business to build capacity and grow. And then you can also access hub zone set-asides. So there is a map on our website, is the hub zone map. So let's say Bridgeport as an example. I believe the entire city of Bridgeport is considered to be a hub zone. What is a hub zone is determined by the US Census. Every 5 years, they take another look at it. So it's based on the poverty level, how distressed the area is, different things like that. The principal office of the business needs to be located in a hub zone. And 35% of the employees also need to reside in a hub zone. They don't necessarily need to be in the same hub zone as a business. They just need to reside in a hub zone in order to be eligible. If you are a, we call them solopreneurs, and you run a home-based business, you're your only employee, your house is located in a hub zone, you've met all of the requirements, you would be eligible for the hub zone certification. Okay, so just a little bit more about the hub zone and its purpose. It's to fuel the growth of small businesses that are located within distressed areas. So that goal again is at 3%. Small businesses invest in and hire from qualified hub zones. And the whole purpose of it is to stimulate the economic conditions in those areas. Now, this is one that agencies do have a little bit of trouble meeting the goals in it. So the goal has been steadily at 3%, but as you can see, it's been on an uptick. We'll see if they actually met the goal in fiscal year 24 when that data comes out, but they've been inching up there, slowly making their way to being able to meet those goals. And then finally, we have our service disabled veteran owned small business program. Again, all of these are formal certifications, so you do need to apply on certifications.sba.gov. You're able to qualify for set-aside opportunities, build capacity and grow, and you can establish joint ventures. So if we do have any veterans on the call, a couple of pointers that I want to make is before you apply for this certification, you want to log into your va.gov account. You want to make sure that your name is correct. You want to make sure that your address is correct, and make sure that it matches what you will be putting on your application. You do have to have a service-connected disability. You have to have a rating from the VA. There is no minimum rating, so even a 0% will work. Yes, 0% are a thing. It just means that you are service-connected, but your condition is not severe enough to kind of affect your day-to-day life, but that can change as you age and progress through life. So you do have to have a rating in order to qualify for this one. And these are the numbers. They've had no problems meeting the goals, except in 2019. Don't know what happened in 2019, but from 2020 on up, they've steadily exceeded the goals. And I fully suspect that in 2024, they will have hit the marks on that 5% as well. So there's been a lot of information. Again, I did not dive too deeply into anything. This was just an overview of how everything works. So I did want to make sure that we let you know that even though it may have been a lot of information, you may not have been able to get a good grasp of it, there is free help out there for you. Of course, we have SCORE. We're partnering with SCORE today for this webinar. If you are on the call and you're not local to Fairfield County, we do have 5 other chapters throughout the state. We also have our small business development centers. They're really good about helping with government contracting to include SAM registrations and applications for any of these certifications that we've talked about, the federal certification specifically. Connecticut Apex Accelerator, all they do is procurement. So that's at the federal level, state level, local level, as well as commercial level. But one of the requirements that they have in order to be one of their clients is that you must have been in business for 2 years and have past performance in order to be their client. So that's where SBDC has been kind of helping anyone who doesn't meet that 2 years. You can get help with the SBDC on some of your SAM registrations and other things. We also have our Women's Business Development Council. And for our veterans, as well as mill spouses, we have our VBOC, our Veteran Business Outreach Centers. So for all of these entities, you will visit their websites, fill out a very short intake form, and they will assign you an advisor. You are not limited. You have your SCORE mentors, and let's say you're working with your SCORE mentor, but you want to work with somebody from Apex because you have a lot of really specialized contracting questions or procurement questions, you can work with an Apex advisor as well as a SCORE advisor. In fact, you can work with all of them at the same time if you wanted to. We do ask for you guys to connect with us, the district office. We are social. We are on X. If you scan the QR code, it'll take you to our page, and you can follow us on X. And you can also connect with us on LinkedIn. We do post not only our upcoming events, we post all of our resource partners' upcoming events as well. And anything, any news or happenings that may be going on the Hill, and you have questions about how it may be affecting the government, any new policies that come about, we make sure that we keep you all aware of all of the changes that may be happening. So be sure to connect with us. And as I mentioned, I would share my contact information. You can email me if you have any questions that you don't want to ask on the call today. Just shoot me an email and I will try my best to help. Do we have any questions out there, Peter?
We have a couple, just as we bring out the close to the presentation. You had talked about a certification, WOSB. So the question is, what is the difference between the WOSB certification and the Women Business Enterprise certification?
Okay, so one of them is state and one of them is federal. So the Woman-Owned Small Business Certification, that's a federal certification. The Women Business Enterprise is a state. So when you all have your session with DAS, they're going to talk more about the state level certifications.
Okay. You had talked about certification. The question is, would you be able to tell us what the site is to register for a certification in a named category?
Yep, I am going to put that in the chat. So it's certifications.sba.gov.
The next question related to certifications, are there advantages to having multiple certificates, or is just one recommended?
Nope. I will always recommend that you get whatever you qualify for. So if you qualify, I always use myself as an example in this, right? I would qualify for all of them, right? So I'm a service disabled veteran. I'm a woman-owned small business. I reside in a hub zone. I could qualify for the 8A business development program. So I would apply for every last one of the certifications, right? So it makes you more marketable to have all of the certifications. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get the contract, but it definitely makes you more marketable. So let's say a contracting officer is, they're out there, they're putting out their feelers and they're doing their market research and they're trying to figure out how to set it aside. They're putting out their sources sought and they're trying to figure out how to set it aside. Are they going to set it aside for all small? Are they going to set it aside for something else? And here comes me. I have all of them. So wherever they need to fill a gap, like let's say, again, they're always falling short on their hub zone and I have my hub zone certification. They're going to set it aside as hub zone and I would be eligible for that one as well. So whatever you qualify for, I recommend that you apply for it.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. As we bring this webinar to a close, I'd like to point out that there was part 1 on April the 17th and part 2 on April the 24th of this government contracting webinar series. Both of those are available as recorded webinars. Today's session will be available within the next few days. And you can get the recording on fairfieldcounty.score.org website. Please also go to that website to look for information on upcoming webinars and to request a mentor. We offer at SCORE free individual counseling, so please use the link to request a mentor. We are available for sessions via phone, email, or video. You will also receive an evaluation at the end of this webinar. Please fill it out. It allows us to continue to tailor these webinars to be as useful as possible for our audience. Tanisha, thank you very, very much for presenting today and sharing your expertise. That brings our meeting to a close. We wish everybody a great afternoon. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much.